So hi, Kelly. Welcome to the Women in DevOps podcast. We are very, very excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and really interested to see where our conversation goes.
Excellent. So for those listening, we have Kelli Mohr. She's the director of platform engineering at Slalom Consulting. And she's one busy woman. I'd love to introduce you, but no one else can introduce themselves better than you can. So Kelly, I would love if you give our listeners a quick introduction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelli Mohr. I am, as Lauren said, a director of platform engineering at Slalom Build. Other than that, I'm also a mom, and I am heavily into volunteering with our local junior league in our search and rescue group. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and talk more about my journey in tech.
Excellent. So just to break the ice, we like to ask all of our guests a very random question. And Kelly, I would love to know if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
This is a hard one. I'm gonna go with Anthony Bourdain because I just love his storytelling, and I know the food's gonna be good. And yeah, I just think it would be fun to go on an adventure somewhere with him.
Fair enough. Can I come with you?
Absolutely.
Food and storytelling, I'm totally there. Well, look, Kelly, one of the reasons we were so excited to have you today is because you've just done so much in your career, and want to, before we hear about all the exciting things you've been doing recently, would love to know, what are your earliest memories of tech?
Oh gosh, I think starting out when we were young, we had an Atari, so I'm a '80s kid. So and then around I think a sixth grade or something, I was like really had to have and wanted a Casio calculator watch. It was the coolest thing ever. I would never take it off, and I'd always get in trouble at softball games for wearing it. And then in middle school, we had four electives to choose from. It was art, shop, home ec, or computers, and I didn't want to do home ec at all. So I decided to take computers, and it really paid off well for me.
I love that. Was that quite encouraged at home as well? Like when you went back and told your parents, like were they like shocked or encouraged by that?
Not shocked. They just really let me make my own decisions on what I was interested in. You know, personal computing at the time was really geared towards, young men and things like that. So we didn't even have a computer in the home until I was in high school, so in the late 90s. So, which we got as a hand-me-down from the doctor that my mom worked for, and it was an old Commodore.
I love that. One of my first memories of computer actually is at my grandparents' house, and me just thinking, what is this? Um, yeah, it's crazy to think now. It's such a norm, isn't it? So with all that in mind, then, what was the motivation then? What compelled you to get into the tech space in the first place? You've got your Casio watch, you've got your computer. What happened next?
So I just really love math for the most part, and I would do the coding challenges in the book for extra credit. And so when I went to college, I didn't really know what I was going to be. I just came in and told the counselors that I love math, and they're like, "Cool, we'll put you in engineering." And then I found, similar to high school, I do not like chemistry at all. So I needed to find something else so that I didn't have to take 3/4 of chemistry. So I actually pivoted, and I was like, well, okay, I'll be a math teacher. And with that, my boyfriend at the time was taking a Visual Basic 6 class, and he was struggling with one of the challenges, and I was like, "Oh, let me take a look." And I was like, "Oh, this is kind of fun. I'm going to sign up for the class the next quarter." And I took it, and I just loved it. So I changed my major to computer science after that.
And so what's the rest, what does, in a nutshell, was the rest a smooth ride? Like, it doesn't sound too sort of like topsy-turvy up until now, what did, you know, the rest of your career look like in regards to it being able to progress from step to step back in the early days?
Like there was a lot of ups and downs, like a lot of hoops to jump through. I've had many transitions. I worked through the recession. My first kind of big job, well, I got it in college, but after college for years was working for a mortgage bank as their IT person. And we all know what happened to the mortgage industry. We were one of the first places to close. There's like chains on the door. Nobody showed up. It wasn't open anymore. We're like, what's going on with our jobs? So I was unemployed for 8 months then, and I really had to I was managing a company with, I think we had 10 offices across Washington, Oregon, California, and then we had our president who also lived in France, so like supporting her remotely. And then with 8 months of unemployment, not being able to find a job, I found that I had to move backwards to get back into the space. And I kind of worked at my first real technology company outside of the mortgage industry and started all over again in tech support at the bottom. But I was able to make a big impact when I came in because I was very overqualified for the job. And then I've had pretty much all my transitions are backwards and then huge impact and then get ahead really quickly.
And how did that make you feel? Like, was that like a good thing? Obviously, you know, being out of work is never fun. And I'm glad that you found something. But was that, you know, being able to go in with confidence, making impact, you know, knowing what you were doing, was that a good feeling, or did you feel like you wanted to do more?
I mean, I think it was a good feel when I got aligned with a good boss who recognized my potential and I was able to like move up. That was a better feeling, but at first I was not. And like it was more of like, oh, you're doing all this in tech support and you're making me look good. I'm going to keep you there and I don't want to move you up or things like that. So that was really like dimming to me to like know that I was like above my potential, not being paid at my potential, and also like feeling like I was getting taken advantage of for the most part.
So you said something there that's really, really interesting, which I'd love to explore, which was that when you had that manager that believed in you and then, you know, helped you get up. Obviously, you're a manager now, you're a director now, leading big teams, and of course all the non-for-profit stuff you also do as well. You know, how have previous managers impacted your style now, and was that manager one of them?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think for my style, so one of my favorite managers, like she would always say, we need to do this. I knew I was going to do it, but the fact that like how she positioned it was like I felt like we were in a team together, like tackling all these things. And then for the other manager that I was talking about, like she knew my potential and she like got out of my way and let me like run with things and didn't try to micromanage me or anything like that. So I think that that was like huge in, you know, my growth and to just be able to like do what I know I can do without like having to fight through. So
Yeah, because look, managing's, I mean, I find managing hard. It's not an easy task. And yeah, it's interesting. I think like how I manage now, how you manage now is based on so many previous experiences and learning and taking good bits and bad bits. Obviously we are women in DevOps. We're very passionate about advocating for women. Have you felt like, or did you feel like you were able to make an impact amongst other women whilst you've been acting manager? And when looking back at your previous managers, do you think that's made a difference depending if they were a man or woman, like if you had different experiences there?
yes, definitely. I've had a lot of not so great managers and it's really like impacted on like how to act. Like I'm very like show up for your one-on-one on time. Don't skip it. Don't blow off the person because I've had that happen before and I know how it feels and I know it feels really bad to like not feel like you're important. And so I think that's really like showing up, with my full heart and empathy and everything, to help support people and get them towards their goals and the things that they want to do and the things that interest them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think I've been in the same position. Yeah, managers who are always late to that one-to-one or always cancelling that monthly review.
Yes.
It's for them, it's such a small thing, but I get the person on the side, like, yeah, it's so important to feel empowered. And so, obviously, you mentioned before, you love math, you love science. Back in the day, have you been able to transfer any of those previous skills like into a management role? And also you in particular, and any kind of skills that you've picked up in the world of work, let's call it, through your technology career, all the stuff that you do with the kids in junior league and stuff like that. What do transferable skills look like?
Yeah, so this is actually really interesting because when I was younger and in my early 20s, and I'd be on these development teams with all men, and I was the only woman, and I would always get like the administrative tasks on my plate along with like coding, and it used to just frustrate me to no end. And they're like, "Oh, well, you're really good at it. It just comes naturally to you." And I'm like, "Why can't these guys learn like to do these things too?" But in the case of transferable skills, because I was like doing like managing a product and building out user stories and breaking things down for people and stuff, I already knew how to do all these things. And when I got into management and like leading people and stuff, I wasn't going from just being an engineer and only knowing engineering. Like I had all these other skills that I could easily bring with me. And it was like easy to get into that place where I see a lot of other people who are just technical. They'll go into management and they try to manage by the technical details and not like the human aspect or the other things that need to be done beyond just like one small piece of technology.
So all of that in mind, what are your top tips for anyone listening to this, right, who is either wanting to get into management, they are a manager but they want to improve, or they're a manager and they want to be a director? If you could then like summarize what your most important top tips would be, just to put all of that information together, what would you say?
Look at where you're leading now. There's probably things on the side that you're doing, maybe with your company, that you're leading a group, or maybe outside of work that you're leading a group, and then really just recognize like those things and try to like reframe what you're doing into those transferable skills that we were talking about earlier, to say like, hey, look at this. I'm like, the way I did this was with junior league. I was like, I'm out here and I'm, you know, co-chair on this major fundraiser that we're putting together and leading this team to like get it all kicked off, and it was very successful, and here's my proof that I can do it. Like I haven't had the opportunity inside of work for whatever reason to do that, but here's my proof that I can.
So Kelly, what is the difference then between managing the people at work who you are paid to manage and the people at junior league who aren't paid to be there? Is there a difference?
Motivating people who are not getting paid is like, it's easier because we have a common vision and goal in a way, but then also like the accountability factor is a little bit different because there's no like fear of being fired or things like that. So yeah, it depends. It's there's kind of different aspects in between like nonprofit leadership versus like work leadership, but it's all I think you all need to be united around a common goal or know where you're going, and making sure that you have that story and that you're, you know, guiding people along the way to what their impact is, because I think people want to contribute and be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Okay, so Kelly, let's talk about imposter syndrome, which is something that I like to talk about a lot. I know some people are imposter syndromed out, but I think it's important we keep talking about it, and that we're raw about it and we're real about it. What does imposter syndrome mean to you?
So imposter syndrome's interesting because I have like a couple ways that I think about it, because like the original kind of like 1978 imposter phenomenon that it's all kind of based on of, high achieving women feeling that they're a fraud and they got to where they were by luck. Which I think we have to accept that luck is pretty common in any success story. If you even look at like Bill Gates, he was lucky that he had access to the University of Washington computer lab. Like Elon Musk, probably lucky he was born in the family that he had. Like, and I've even had some of my own luck too. But also I know that I've like worked hard to get to where I was. So I don't really feel like a fraud. And since I've always kind of moved backwards to move forward, too, I was kind of coming from a position of already been there, so I've been lucky that way. But I really think that there's like two things that play into imposter syndrome, and like the first is the environment that you're in. If it's toxic and doesn't support you to learn and grow, then you're going to feel bad about it because you're not going to have the support to do the things that you want to do. And then I think really the second piece of that is just recognizing and getting into a learner mindset. When you start feeling that very uncomfortable feeling, you know that you're growing, and then trying to, you know, reframe your mind into saying, okay, I have an opportunity here to grow and improve my skills. And then the other thing that's really helpful for me is just take a step back and say, okay, I know I've solved problems that I haven't solved before. I can do this. I just need to like dive in and do the work. And I can do it scared. That's okay. But I just got to get started, because I think if I just sit here and spin and think about it and think about it, I'm just going to like continually spiral in negative thoughts. And that's not where I want to be. I want to be into that like creator area of breaking down the problem, seeing how I can, tackle it and how I can learn and get it done. And then technology is so vast, you can't know everything. So I also am thinking, who do I know who's really good at this that I can go talk to? So a lot of times on like consulting calls, people will ask me things that I don't know. And I said, okay, I'll find out for you, or I'll find someone who's great at this that can help you. So.
And thank you for sharing. And would you say then that, this is something that you have dealt with yourself? Like, would you say, I am Kelly and I've experienced imposter syndrome, for lack of a better sentence?
Yeah, the support group of hi, it's me. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it happens to all of us, and then I'm hearing it more and more from like my male colleagues and things, about how they have imposter syndrome. And I just really think like most people, if they were hired, they deserve to be there. They passed the tests, right? They passed the interviews. They were there and chosen for a reason. So it's like recognizing that in yourself and just reframe and move on and push forward.
100%. And do you, now we have this word, this sentence, this phrase, imposter syndrome, do you think it's easier for you now to recognize those feelings? Like, was there a time before you knew what imposter syndrome was, where you struggled with those emotions and those feelings?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Especially because a lot of, my past jobs, I was in that toxic environment. So I know, like, I was really, really hard on myself, where I probably shouldn't have been, because I was being put in like interesting positions where I wasn't supported, and then, asked to perform like probably quicker, or like being beat up, I guess. I don't know. Let me rethink about that.
That's okay. This is a rogue question, but just, whilst we're reminiscing on your past, what is the worst thing that you think you've ever dealt with as a woman in tech, with either like a manager or a colleague or a co-worker?
Definitely harassment and sexual harassment and things like that. Those are probably the worst things that had happened in the past. So
Oh, well, A, I'm sorry that you went through that. And B, I guess the reason I asked that question, right, is because sometimes I feel, and we have these conversations, and we talk about imposter syndrome, right, and it's glorified, and it's important to remember that actually we're in these positions. You've got years of experience, and you have been through this. You've heard it, you've felt it, you've seen it happen. And obviously, we want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction as a technology community, as leaders, as communities. How do you think that organizations can help challenge imposter syndrome within their, for their employees, but also in the same sentence, I guess, encourage conversations like that? So not just are we trying to be like, okay, cool, let's challenge imposter syndrome, but how do we also challenge folks to speak up, no matter their gender, right, but in the workplace when uncomfortable things happen, not just feeling like you have imposter syndrome. How can organizations make fundamental change to improve that?
yeah, I think it really setting that psychological safety and having like a safe place for you to either speak with your manager or a mentor or even your other colleagues. One thing I like to do when I'm like looking at teams is like, can I put like 2 women on the team? Because I know if someone may be unsure about, if one woman might be unsure about something, they'll have someone else to like tap. And I've heard that that's been like very supported to be like we want diverse teams, but if you put just one person, you're like, yay, we got a diverse team. But having like a second person there to support, it really helps in diversity, and it helps like having someone on the side to be like, I don't really understand what's going on. Can you help me? Or things like that. So like you have that support where you don't have to feel like you have to admit you're a fraud. You can just, check with someone.
I like that. You call it like tapping, like being able to like tap on each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Anyone that's entering tech for the first time, or perhaps have had a career change, do you think that the technology space lends itself more to imposter syndrome because of like the sheer growth and size and scale and how quickly things can develop? And a genuine question, compared to other industries, like, do you think that it happens more so in technology, perhaps because of those reasons?
Yes, I actually do. That's like part of my talk on that, and the growth mindset is like you're not using things that you used 3 years ago. Like it's
Yeah.
rapidly changing so fast, and if I would have been like set in stone, like I am a Ruby developer and that's all I do, like I probably wouldn't have a job unless I was like managing out some legacy system right now. So knowing that, being prepared for that, I think in general, like you have to know yourself to know, like, am I going to need stability or
Yeah.
do I appreciate challenges? Things like that. So it's
No, I
important.
like that. I follow you on social media, on your Instagram things. You often post some really, really good resources, and I know you're an avid reader and things like that. Have you come across any other good podcasts or books that you'd recommend anyone reading if they are struggling with imposter syndrome?
Not imposter syndrome in general, but I did read this book, Traumatized by Katie Morton, and she talks about complex PTSD. So it's really about, having feelings of PTSD, but it's not one big event, but many little tiny traumas over time. So it could be like unconscious bias in the workplace. It could be like being harassed, but all these build up over time. And I think that's really helped with my journey and my mental health is like having that realization like there's all these little things that happen along my path where when I came to Slalom because I heard it was a wonderful place for women to work and a safe place. But when I first got there, I still had carried all of that baggage from the past
Yeah.
with me. So then I would sit and I'm like, did that person really mean that way? Are they coming at me? So it was like it took a while to like work through those little traumas and trust people again and build my confidence again. So I think that was a really great book for helping me kind of realize how all those things added up to the way that I was like behaving and acting when I first got there and was very untrusting of people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. I know a few people, Slalom obviously a global business, that work at all sorts of different levels, and that feedback actually is consistently the same, that it's such a safe place
Hmm.
to work for women. In a nutshell, what do you think Slalom are doing so right that, you know, the majority, if not all of them, I hope every single engineer feels like it's safe, right? But for you to say that with such confidence, what do you think they're getting right? What could others learn from Slalom?
I think, you know, we listen to each other. We're not afraid to like say things like, I feel like this. We have like this drama triangle, so we can like register like there's a concept of being up a ladder and like, am I up in the ladder right now? And assuming all these things and it's not happening. So they gave us kind of like the tools and the training to have a common language. And then also, I just think there's like an authentic caring between people. And everybody,
Yeah.
they really want to be there to like do the right thing and do their best and work together. And I think that even if something weird happened, you could talk to someone and say, and they're like, oh my gosh, I did not mean it that way. But yes, okay, yeah, I see. So I think that's what they're doing differently is just really living in their values and listening and striving to always do better.
It's so important. That's really, really great to hear because, yeah, in 2023, we're still having so many conversations about unsafe places to
Mhm.
work for women, or, folks with the best intentions, but pragmatically, it just doesn't exist in real life. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, so we've talked about imposter syndrome a lot. Let's talk about burnout. We've touched on mental health a few times in this conversation. What a few years it has been for everybody. You more than most because you are trying to juggle 15 different things incredibly well. Um, but we're talking a lot about burnout now. What is your experience with burnout, if any, and particularly as a manager?
Yeah. Um, as a manager, like I really have to learn I can't do all the things. Like I need to delegate. I need to find the right people to do things. Like I don't have to figure out how to do everything. I just can find someone who can help me do that. And then my experience, I have been burnt out in the past. I'm trying to do a lot. I feel like everything, like the world's resting on my shoulders, and I need to really like take a step back because I know that I can't be the best version of myself if I'm just too tangled and involved in everything. And I need to like make sure that I have breaks in my day. I need to go outside every day. I need to move my body. I need to like take care and eat lunch and things like that. And I will get into modes where it's like, I got to get this done. So I'm just going to like work through. I'm not going to eat lunch and things like that. And I know that that's where I kind of like spiraled and that's not where I'm my best self. And then I'm crankier and snapping at my family and things like that. So being able to that self-awareness again, like what are your triggers and
Yeah.
how do you plan your day so that you can have a break and rest your mind and do creative thought thinking.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be like a 5K run either, does it? Like a quick
No.
walk around the block, or even just going outside into your garden. I think it's quick, we can quickly underestimate just how important those things are. Especially in the sort of like work dynamic where the to-do list just does not end ever.
Exactly.
Perfect. So how do you help your team overcome burnout and improve their wellness in the tech space? Obviously, you've just talked about those tips just there, but how do you make sure that your team do that?
Yeah, definitely. We have a how is your work throttle that you check every week, and you just like thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down. And we get a report and we can go in and like double tap like, hey, what was going on last week? Like, where can we support and help you? And then also just doing our check-ins consistently, having those one-on-ones, knowing kind of what's going on in like their project, their life, what's, contributing to anything. And just, emphasizing that they're in control of their life and things, and they can say no and push back and set boundaries. It's very like, it's okay.
I like that. I like the thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways. It's cool and it's easy, and I guess you don't have to go into a ton of detail, right? Like if you're having like a mediocre week, you can just put like a sideways thumb and move on. I like that. Cool. And we use the word burnout sometimes, I think, a bit loosely. What's your definition of burnout?
Oh gosh, when you just can't anymore. Can't
So
like
you're at
go
the
on.
end.
Yeah, for me it's like on my couch binge watching Netflix, like can't even do the things.
Yeah, no, I think it's, and let everyone's going to react differently to burnout as well, right? So do you speak to your team about like triggers, or what their sort of like mental health triggers are, so you can recognize burnout in different types of personalities and people?
No, but I should start. Definitely I know I have like team members who like when I get on a project, I'm focused on the project and I don't want to focus on other things. I'm like, well, that's really awesome that you know that about yourself already. Like, I wish I would have figured that out long ago too. It would like save myself a lot of time. So, um, but yeah, I think that's a good spot to really explore and make sure like we have a really big emphasis on like work-life balance. So just making sure that people are taking the time for that.
Yeah.
And taking their vacation, like checking in on those kinds of things. Like you have
Yeah.
time, take it.
You know what? It's just so refreshing, isn't it? Because even like 5 to 8 years ago, and maybe I was just working for the wrong maybe I was just working for the wrong organizations, but we didn't talk about mental health at work. It wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't as important. Um, various industries booking in PTO and vacation time, I was found quite nerve-wracking. It wasn't encouraged. Where now, I guess we understand the importance of a happy, healthy workforce and what that means for production levels. Have you seen that pattern as well?
Yeah, I think well there's like more emphasis on it and I think really targeted at younger generations. Like don't be like us or your parents or your parents' parents. Like don't work yourself to death just so that, you get to 60 and you think you can retire and then you're gonna have like the best life ever. But like take time to do it now. Like take time to enjoy life. You can work and then you can vacation and things like that. But I think like I'm a vacation hoarder because like it's like dollar signs to me. Like I'm like, oh well, if I save this and something happens, then I'll just get cashed out to me. But that's all based in like past probably trauma of being like going through a recession and things like that.
Yeah.
So just making sure that I was set up now to be like, okay, I have that emergency fund, so I don't have to like weirdly hoard my vacation in case something happens someday.
So part of that timeline, like PTSD baggage that you've got on your back.
Exactly.
No, that does make sense. And so talking about younger generation then, Gen Z in particular, that's a podcast within itself. How they bring themselves to work. But what are your hopes for the women in technology who are coming into it now?
Yeah, hopefully that we have more. We can always use more women. And just I love seeing all the community around women in tech and how they're working together to, build each other up and things like that. I know in my days it was always the one woman in the room syndrome, and there's only one room, but now you see a lot of, bringing others along with you and things like that. So that's what I'm really hopeful there, and just that community and support network, and there's people sharing their stories, I think, is the other big thing, because you don't know what other people are going through and how it's going to resonate, and you may not think that your story is important, but it is, and I'm know that someone else is probably experiencing the same thing as you and would benefit from your wisdom.
Yeah, a lot of shared knowledge there, and that's why Woman in DevOps was born in the first place, and it is amazing and empowering now to see like how many organizations there are and platforms and podcasts and opportunities to story share and story tell, and that's what you've been doing today as well, so thank you.
Exactly.
So we started this conversation with Kelly with the Casio watch. It was really good at math. With everything that you've achieved so much during your career. If you could go back and give Kelly with the Casio watch advice, what would that advice to younger Kelly be?
Oh gosh, just stay authentic and in line with my own core values, and don't let others try to shrink you or, just, do what you do best and keep going forward, and don't stay too long in a place that is not right.
I like that. And what does not right feel like, would you say?
Oh yeah, if it's toxic, if you're not growing, if you're not they talk a lot about your body and if it expands or contracts based on like the situation or people that you're around, like if you're feeling deflated every day, then that's probably not a right place for you, and you need to go somewhere where you can wake up every day and be excited for work and really like expand and bring joy to others.
Land and expand somewhere that isn't toxic.
Yeah.
So Kelly, we've talked about storytelling and networking in the past. How have you used your network or storytelling or referrals to get yourself into a good position, either with like an interview or a job or perhaps a client? Has that ever happened to you before?
I went and I interviewed with a man for his consulting company, and I didn't get the job, but I had sent him a thank you card thanking him for, taking the time to meet with me, and how I really appreciated it. And he was so like excited about this handwritten thank you card that he actually got me a job with one of his clients. So, and then was my mentor for many years, and he would never give me the answer to anything. He always like would give me just enough so I can go figure it out on my own, but that really like helped me in my career to know that like I got to dig in and dive and figure things out, and I can ask for help. And so I mean that was like huge and propelling, and he was like a basketball coach of my cousin, and that's my aunt was like, "Oh, my niece is in tech, so talk to her." And then, so it was like a lucky meeting, but it was like because of the way I was raised with my manners had like impressed him so much that I was able to get like my first job in tech.
Okay, perfect. Kelli, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and talking all things burnout, imposter syndrome, management, Casio watches. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. If anyone did want to reach out to you and find out a little bit more, how could they do that? And would that be okay?
Yeah, you can go to, I have a website, kellimohr.com. That's KELLIMOHR. So, and then and then you can find me on Instagram at Kelli A Mohr. So KELLIAMOHR. And you can also find me on LinkedIn under Kelli Mohr.
Excellent. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kelli. And yeah, best of luck for the next stage in 2023 of an awesome team.
Great. Thank you so much.